When women make more money, we see that they take on more of their responsibilities at home. If you are in a relationship where your partner can't support your success or doesn't want to support your success, then it's not going to work. Being a homeowner is a helpful way to save money over the long term. When you own, you're building equity in this house, and that is a form of forced savings. But if you're not going to be someplace for 5 years, I don't think you should buy.
You just had $100,000 cash. Where would you put it?
What I'm doing with that kind of money right now is
Yeah, fam, the world is changing. It used to be that men had all the money and that men made all the money. But that is no longer the case. Women are making more and more money. We are closing the wage gap. Women are graduating college at faster rates than men now. Women are getting more inheritances because they're living longer. Women are becoming the breadwinners of families. And I see that all around in my life right now, more and more. This is changing the world as we know it. This is changing gender roles as we know it. And whether you're male or female, this is something you got to learn about, which is why I'm having this topic on today's episode of Young and Profiting Podcast with Jean Chatzky. Jean Chatzky is the CEO and founder of Her Money. She's also the host of the Her Money podcast, and she's a best-selling author. She started her career in journalism and then later TV, and now she's an awesome entrepreneur here to share all of her advice to us in terms of this changing world and how we're all going to be impacted by the fact that women are making more money. Even the products we buy, our cars, the airplanes, they're all going to change because they're going to be based on not just men's preferences, but women's too. It's such an interesting topic to me, such a great conversation that we had. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Jean Chatzky. Jean, welcome to Young and Profiting Podcast.
Thanks, Hala. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I think it's going to be so insightful for my audience. I really love your work. So when I looked at your career journey, it reminded me a lot of my own in terms that you skill stacked to become an entrepreneur. So I call this skill stack entrepreneurship, where basically you worked for other people and you gained all these skills over the years, and then you became an entrepreneur, basically putting these skills together. And then you came out with Her Money, and nobody could do Her Money better than you know, because you had all the experiences to put together this unique offering, to put together this awesome website, this awesome podcast. And you had all the background and the skills, the writing, the journalism, the broadcasting, the knowledge of that actual topic. It's a lot like what I did with Yap Media and my podcast network and my social agency. So I'd love for you to just talk to us about that for all these young people listening. Talk about the skills that you acquired over the years and then how you sort of use that in your entrepreneurship journey.
I was one of the original side giggers, right? I think I had a side hustle before it was called a side hustle. Pretty much always, because journalists make very little money, or at least when you're starting out as a journalist, you make very little money. So originally my side hustle was teaching SATs, but as I started to become a stronger writer and a stronger content creator, I was able to hustle in my own industry. And so just by doing that, I picked up a lot of the adjacent skills that I then needed to launch this business. Once I was on the Today Show in particular, a lot of doors started to open. These were the days where everybody was watching the Today Show. And so I got a lot of offers to go out and speak, to write books, to consult for different companies in the employee benefits departments where they were trying to improve the financial health of their employees. And I didn't become an entrepreneur until a full-scale entrepreneur until 20 years down the road when I left my last magazine job. I actually got fired from my last magazine job because I'd gotten a little too expensive for their payroll. And I looked at all of the other things that I was doing. I was doing radio for Oprah over here, and I was doing speaking here, and I was on my 10th book over here, and I had 3 other clients over here. And I thought, why am I getting another job? Like I have 5 other jobs. I would just need to put them together. Her Money as a company came along after Her Money as a podcast. I was doing some work with Fidelity Investments. They were our original launch sponsor. The fabulous team there basically said, what else can we do together? And I was like, how about a podcast? So we launched, and very quickly it became apparent to me that we were growing a community of like-minded women who wanted to learn about money. And Her Money, the company, launched around that.
You've been doing such a great job. I know that your podcast is super popular. Your blog is very well known. I've heard about Her Money for many years now. You also have like so many books, and you've just become such an accomplished author. And a majority of your content is actually geared towards women. So I want to talk to that for a minute, because I know that all the advice you give is applicable to all genders, right? Doesn't necessarily need to be just for women. But we do need to understand why women have traditionally had an uphill battle when it has come to their finances. Can you give us some insight in terms of the gender wage gap? And I think a lot of people have the assumption that that's not really a thing anymore. So can you talk to us about if it is a thing in 2024?
Oh, it's a thing. It has budged, which is good. Over the last year and a half, it's moved up a smidge so that at this point, women earn 83.5 cents to every dollar that a white man earns. But the American Association of University Women say we are going to be halfway through the next century before this gap actually closes. That's how slowly it's moving. And it's worse for women of color. And the problem with the gender wage gap is that when you combine it with all of the other factors that women deal with in terms of earning money and growing money for retirement, they put us behind. Women are the ones to take breaks from work to care for kids and care for older parents. We saw that in the pandemic in spades, but it's been true all along. Because we take those breaks, we have less money growing in those retirement accounts. We earn fewer Social Security credits. We get to the end of the line. We've got a smaller nest egg, and then we have to make the money last longer because we go and we outlive men by 6-7 years. So it's an uphill battle. But you're right in terms of the advice being gender neutral. There are not a ton of differences in the advice that somebody would give to a man versus a woman. Jane Bryant Quinn, who is one of my mentors and a leading personal finance journalist, just a trailblazer, she likes to say that stocks aren't pink or blue. Money's not pink or blue. It's green, right? And she's 100% right about that. The problem is that women sometimes don't feel as safe as we need to feel to ask the questions that we need answered in order to get us to take the steps to start investing, to put our money to work, to ask for that raise. And what I've found, and the reason that I launched Her Money, was that when I was in a room full of all women, given some sort of a talk, and I would get to the Q&A section, the hands would just fly up in the air. And when I was in a mixed group, the response was a lot more muted. Women really held back and didn't want to share as much. And so what I set out to create was a safe space. But am I going to tell women that they should buy NVIDIA, as we did for our investing club 2 years ago, and tell men that they should not? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, such good advice. And by the way, that stock has done really well because I have it too.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Young and Profiters, As entrepreneurs, we often have our nose to the ground. We are so focused on hustling, building our financial wealth, that we forget about our mental health. For a long time, I did not care about my mental health at all. And as a founder of a company, I felt like I lost a lot of relationships and I felt lonely and I needed help. Especially, I went through a breakup in February. And at the time, I felt like I don't want to talk to my friends and family about this. Also, like, I don't really want to bring my problems on other people. I just want like an outside person to talk to. I'll be honest with you guys. I tried therapy 4 years ago and I didn't like it. I felt like it was exorbitantly expensive when I tried it. Granted, I got some like celebrity therapist or something, and I didn't like her. I didn't like anything about the interaction. I felt like it was very transactional. I felt like she didn't really care about me. It was just like a check. And BetterHelp has been a completely different experience. It's all online. When I was going through that breakup, there was like 2 weeks where I needed extra support. I was going to webinars. I did like group therapy calls, which is like included in the program with no additional cost. And then after I like kind of got out of that rut, I just started doing weekly calls with my therapist, Blair. And I love Blair. She is so nice. She's always checking up on me. I feel like it's so genuine. She like remembers things about our conversation. I feel like she's really helped me with perspective. She's really helped me with like, not being down in the dumps about having a breakup. I got over that breakup so quickly. And it's really because of BetterHelp. I really stopped comparing and I started focusing on myself. If you want to give therapy a try, stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/yap today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/yap for 10% off your first month. So a lot of my listeners are business owners. A lot of them are, people of power. We have employees. We have our own small businesses. What is our responsibility when it comes to the gender wage gap?
I think our responsibility is to level it. And it has to come from the employers, because if employers don't take a look at our payrolls, don't take a look at how we are treating our employees, irrespective of gender, irrespective of race, these gaps are never going to close. And so we have to get really honest about who's doing what work. And how much are they being compensated for it? And it's not a matter of need. It's a matter of the work that we need them to do, but it's not a matter of our perception of the money that they need to take home, which is how it used to work. Years back, you would hear conversations where a boss would tell a female employee, well, of course John is going to get paid more than you do. He's the breadwinner and he's got multiple mouths to feed at home. We're now in an era where more women are the breadwinners. And if you look ahead, if you look out to 2030 and into the 2030s, women are actually expected to control the lion's share of the wealth and the spending in this country and across the world. And it's because of educational trends that are leading women to have more qualifications than men in many, many instances. And it's also because of the way that the transfer of wealth, the $41 trillion transfer of wealth that is going on as we speak is playing out. Women are inheriting twice. And not because our parents prefer us to our brothers, but we're inheriting twice because if we have brothers, chances are we split the family pie with them. But then when our husbands die, we inherit that money as well.
So good. And this is really, really fascinating to me. I really want to spend a lot of time here on these social and economical changes that are going on. So I got some incredible stats from your work, and I'm going to rattle some off and ask some questions about them. I'd love for you to really just give us as much insight, as much color as you have about them. So the first one is, for every 100 men who graduated from college last year, 132 women graduated. Can you talk about how this really snowballs into various social, demographic, economic changes?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the types of jobs that college grads hold, and the types of jobs that you need to have a college degree in order to get, they tend to be the higher paying jobs. We are seeing some movement in trades, in apprenticeships, in vocational programs. I grew up in Wheeling, West Virginia, in a high school that had a big welding department in the basement. And I believe that we need to see more of these opportunities. But there's no question that a college degree helps you land a better salary. And when you look at the lifetime earnings of a person with a college degree versus one who doesn't have one, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. And the way that then drives change in society is that you have these families where you tend to have not just one, but two college educated people, because college educated people often meet in college. And those two income college educated households are going to be making significantly more money in many cases than those who are not college educated. And what we wind up with is just a bigger income disparity in this country than we have right now. And as you know, Hala, it's already problematic. So, so we look at it and we see these things starting to march in that direction. The other problem, though, and I hear of this from my daughter and from people younger than her, is that if you are on a college campus and you're heterosexual and you want to date, it's gotten an awful lot harder.
I definitely want to talk about that, but let's hold that thought for a second. Let's talk about how by 2028, women will control 75% of discretionary spending around the world. By 2030, 66% of America's wealth will be with women. You alluded to this a bit, but what are some of the factors of why women are going to have so much more money in the future years?
So it's education, and it's the transfer of wealth. Those are the two big factors that are playing into this. But when you follow the breadcrumbs, what you see is that the fact that women are making these purchasing decisions changes things. It changes, if you look at cars, it's going to change the way that cars are designed, because they're going to be designed with women buyers more in mind. You'll have a better place to park that bag that you carry around on your shoulder all the time. The seat will be adjustable in a different way so that you'll be able to see over the front of the hood if you're height challenged in the way that I am. It'll change the design of homes. Single women buy many more homes than single men. They've become a very important segment of home buyers. And we are seeing homes designed with the things that women want in mind. So it's not just a matter of the fact that financial advisors are a little bit up in arms about this, because they have seen studies that show that when the male spouse in a family dies, 70-ish% of women are likely to leave the advisor and find somebody of their own choosing. Those trends are underway as well, but it's going to change the look and feel and design of a lot of products.
Oh my gosh, so interesting. You know what you just reminded me of? So I took my mom to a treat. I took her to Cancun on vacation, and I got us first class tickets. We only brought checked bags. And I remember me and her trying to put our bags up on the airplane. We're both petite. We had to help each other. And actually, my mom accidentally slipped and the bag fell. And it was so embarrassing. And it kind of caused a commotion. And in my head, I was thinking, I just paid over $2,000 for these tickets. And I was expected as a 5'1" girl to put up a bag with my 70-year-old mother by ourselves. And I was thinking, how ridiculous is this? Who are these airplanes designed for? It's obviously not considering petite women, you know?
It's definitely not. And maybe if they start to see that more women are buying their own business class seats, that'll be something that will change. Or, the folks who make the away bag that we all seem to carry will come up with some sort of a hoister to help us get it up in that luggage compartment, because I have the same trouble that you do.
It's the worst part about flying for me.
It is.
Okay, so 38% of women are their family's biggest earner or primary breadwinner. How does that impact society and contribute to the fact that 50% of women are single right now?
Look, there's a lot of research on when a woman is the primary breadwinner and whether or not it causes strife in relationships. Generally, when a man and a woman form their relationship, the woman is already the higher earner, then that status quo doesn't rock the boat too much. It's when there's a shift in the dynamic over the course of the relationship that impacts the balance of power in the relationship in other ways that things go a little bit sideways. And that's where we start to see breakdown in communication. That's where we start to see women compensating for the fact that they make more money. I mean, I'm sure that you have seen this research, Hala. It's so troubling. When women make more money, we don't see that they offload more of the responsibilities at home. We see that they take on more of the responsibilities at home. And the logic behind that is that we feel somehow bad about that, and that we have to, make nice to our spouse's ego. So of course we're going to make dinner and do the grocery shopping and take care of the kids. And that's where burnout comes from. And that's where anger comes from. And in some cases, that's where divorce comes from.
Young and Profiters, I love being an entrepreneur, but I hate the hiring process. And if you do it wrong, it's a real big burden because you're going to have to hire and then fire. It's bad for company culture. It is just a nightmare. You need a good hiring tool and you need a good hiring process internally. And when it comes to a tool, nobody is better than Indeed. That's what we use at Yap Media. Indeed is your all-in-one solution for hiring. Indeed is where all the top A players are looking for a job. It's the most popular hiring platform. It's the most user-friendly. It's way better than having to sift through a million resumes and waste your time. And I love that Indeed's matching engine actually gets better as you use it. It starts to learn your own preferences and what you're looking for. So if you want to give Indeed a try and find your next A player, if you want to stop pouring money down the drain by DIYing your hiring, then start using Indeed. You can get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/profiting. Support the show by letting them know that you found them on Young and Profiting Podcast. Again, you can go to Indeed.com/profiting for a $75 sponsored job credit. Need to hire? You need Indeed. I want to talk to you about the availability of suitable partners for successful women. I think you were kind of alluding to this when you were talking about your daughter, and I'm going to get a little bit personal here. So I'm in my mid-30s, and I have no kids. I'm not married. I'm literally never single. I can get a boyfriend like this. First date, everybody wants to be my boyfriend. It's kind of honestly overwhelming. But I haven't really found the one. And I think I kind of know the reason why. I feel like it's because a lot of guys that I date, they seem like they're cool with a successful woman, and they're successful too. They're all executives or whatever they are. It's not like I'm dating bums, but I'm growing really fast, and they end up getting insecure. Like, you're gonna outgrow me is what they think, right? You're gonna outgrow me. And so we end up breaking up, and I haven't found the right partner. Now, there's a couple things that have recently opened my eyes. Number one is Marshall Goldsmith. I have a social media agency. He's one of my longtime LinkedIn clients. He's a leadership coach.
I know who he is.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So he is always trying to get me married. And he's always telling me, Hala, this happened to my daughters. You have to marry down. You can't be worried about marrying up. You've got to marry down. You'll find a great guy. He doesn't have to be richer than you, or you've just got to marry down. And for a while, I was trying to find somebody that was equal, that I could grow with. But The other thing that really opened my eyes is that I started this podcast network, and I've got a lot of women who like I feel like I'm going to be like in a few years, like Jenna Kutcher, Amy Porterfield, Kelly Roach was my social client, and they all have either they've like retired their husbands, they have house dads basically, and their husband like works with them or for them, right? And that made me realize, because their families are so happy. And I was like, well, maybe I'm just like looking at this in the wrong way. Like maybe I should feel like almost not like a man, but like that, like I just need to find a great partner. They don't need to have, the career that I want them to have. It's more about the person, right? So I just love your thoughts on this.
So I am married for the second time, and I agree with that. First of all, I think, and no disrespect to Marshall, but when he says you have to marry down, I think that that's the wrong word. I think that you have to marry and date different. You need a partner who is going to be really supportive of your efforts and your career, because let's just be honest about this. And I felt the same way when I first had kids. My former father-in-law said, "Well, when are you stopping working?" Because all of his other daughters and daughters-in-law had stopped working, and I said, "Yeah, not me. I'm not doing that. We will figure out how these kids will have care during the day." And the way that we did it was that my ex-husband didn't travel for work, and I did. And that, that balanced us out for a very, very long time. If you are in a relationship where the egos are clashing, or where your partner can't support your success or doesn't want to support your success, then it's not going to work. It's just going to fail. Have you ever seen the movie Beautiful Girls?
No.
Okay, you have to watch the movie Beautiful Girls. It's old, 20 years probably. Natalie Portman and Annabeth Gish and Timothy Hutton and Matt Dillon, a whole bunch of people. But the part of that movie that sticks with me is there's a very successful woman in it. She's dating Timothy Hutton, and he is a piano player in a bar who also happens to be an accountant. And he's been putting a whole lot of pressure on himself to like get a real accounting job so that he can keep up with her. And finally, she just said, musicians are sexy. Like, accountants are not sexy. Musicians are sexy, giving him the permission to continue to do this thing that he enjoyed and continue to bring that sexy energy to their relationship, which is what she needed from him. And so that's the balance I think that you're looking for. There's a lot of Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg's book, that people have dismissed over the past number of years. I think the thing that really holds up from that book is the importance that she put on selecting your partner. She picked a guy that she knew was going to let her be her and let her do the work that she wanted to do and help them create a life where that was going to be possible. And that's what you need.
Yeah. And I just feel like more generally for advice, for everybody tuning in, I just feel like it's just harder to find like traditional roles and partners anymore for men and for women. And I just would love to understand like even more advice from you for the young people tuning in. How can men feel like men and women feel like women in their relationships when everything is sort of getting switched around in terms of who's the breadwinner? I just feel like it's so difficult for us to date.
I think the way that you do it is by knowing yourself and knowing your partner and closing ranks, right? This is your business and it's your partner's business, and it's not your mother's business or your mother-in-law's business or your friend's business or Instagram's business, right? It It is nobody's business but yours. And if it's working for the two of you, then who the hell cares, right? What anybody else has to say. You just have to respect the boundaries that you've created with the two of you and what that allows you to do. Look, I'm the breadwinner in my marriage. I have been for many years. My husband is largely retired. He works about 15 hours a week these days. He's older than I am, and he had an incredibly successful career. But the fact that I out earn him, he could care less. You know, he knows the value that he brings to our marriage. I certainly know the value that he brings to our marriage, and it's nobody else's business, really, despite the fact that I'm talking about it on your podcast.
I love it. Thanks, Jean, for all of that. Okay, so women are getting richer. Can you talk to us about how women are going to treat this newfound wealth compared to how men traditionally have treated wealth? Like, what are they
Men
gonna do
have
with their
traditionally invested it, and women traditionally have been slow to the party. If you, again, and you pulled out a whole bunch of statistics, I'm grateful for that. But one of my favorites is that women keep about 70% of our assets in cash. Men keep about 60%. It's a really big and important difference because investing our money is the only way that we are going to make sure that it is working as hard as we are working ourselves. And so what we're starting to see is women move into the ranks of being investors, wanting to be investors, wanting to learn about investors, whether you've got all your money in a 401k where you put it in a target date fund and you let that fund do its thing, or you're buying individual stocks. We want to learn. I was telling you about my investing club. I run this investing club with Karen Feinerman, who is one of the panelists on Fast Money on CNBC. She's a hedge fund manager. You would love her. She's so brilliant. And we're teaching 300 women and growing how to invest every other Monday night on Zoom. And we pick stocks together and we talk about diversification and trends, and everybody can ask their questions. And you know, it's the kind of investing is the kind of thing that is hard for women because there are no right or perfect answers. There's some parts of personal finance where if you ask me a question, I can give you an answer and I can be 100% right. What is the best cashback credit card? I can look at them all. I can run the numbers. I can give you an answer. I can know that I'm correct. What's the best stock? Can't do it. Right? Because no perfect answer exists because we have backward-looking information and not forward-looking information. And so we have to trust in the historical accuracy of what has come before. That is difficult for a large portion of women who like to know the answer to any question before we even ask that question. We have to get comfortable, and the way to get comfortable is by actually doing it. And one thing that has really, really helped when you look at Gen Z and millennials is that we're now being, across the board, automatically enrolled in these 401k and other retirement plans at work where we have them. The money's being automatically invested into a default, like a target date fund. So you're investing whether or not you are doing the work of investing yourself in many cases. And if you can allow yourself to sit with that and get comfortable with the fact that you're not only doing it, but you're doing it pretty well, that helps people.
I love that. This was, to me, such an interesting conversation, honestly. I feel like it's like this whole gender wage gap and transfer of wealth, it's really shifting everything. Let's move on to some more general advice, tactical financial advice. I want to start with the concept of financial freedom, right? I feel like the concept of financial freedom has changed, especially for millennials, for Gen Z. How do you think we should go about thinking about financial freedom?
Well, I'm interested in knowing how you think it's changed. What is it to you?
Well, I feel like now it's more about personally like enjoying life, doing what I want, right? It's really not about becoming a billionaire. It's like what's the amount of money that I need where I can live comfortably, buy what I want, and enjoy life, work out, be healthy, sit in the sun. That's what I think of.
Well, that's pretty much my definition too. It's just my definition, I think, extends for a longer period of time because of my age, right? So I look at this and I think I want all of that, but I want to be able at some point to just work when I want to work and know that those things will continue for as long as I live. So I think that's where the disparity in financial freedom comes in. I think younger generations define it in terms for today, and older generations define it in terms that include a retirement that might last for 3 decades.
So one of the things that I think a lot of my listeners are probably going through right now, we've got a lot of 30-year-olds, is buying or renting. And traditionally, when we're talking about the American dream, financial freedom, a lot of it is also like being a homeowner, right? Do you feel like it's important to be a homeowner? Do you feel like it's a good investment strategy? And what are some of the things we should think of renting versus buying?
I feel like being a homeowner is a helpful way to save money over the long term. If you think about buying versus renting, month to month, right now, the costs are actually closer than they've ever been. But when you own, you are putting equity, you're building equity in this house. And that is a form of forced savings. And what happens if you get to the end of the road, if you pay down a mortgage for a long enough period of time, or even if you swap out of it and out of a couple of homes, but you've built up some equity and then you build up some more, you end up with this cushion of cash. And you can use that cushion to supplement your standard of living. You can use it to pay for long-term care. You can use it to keep a roof over your head. You can use it to sell and move to Costa Rica. You have choices because you have this additional cushion. And if you've rented your whole life, unless you took the difference between the renting cost and the buying cost, which is a lot slimmer than it used to be, and you put that away every single month, you don't have that additional sum of money. So that's where being a homeowner, I think, is additive to your bottom line. There are other differences. We know in a whole bunch of different situations that autonomy is one of the things that make people happy. You're happier at your job if you feel like you've got enough autonomy to rearrange the furniture, or to put your own stuff up on the walls, or to decide that you're going to come in at 9:30 rather than 9:00. You're just happier. And you are happier where you live if you feel like you have enough autonomy to make the place what you want it to be. And you're more likely to have that if you own rather than if you rent. But there are a lot of cases where you shouldn't own. Right? If you're not going to be someplace for 5 years, I don't think you should buy. The cost of buying is just too steep. I don't think that mortgage rates at this level should stop people who want to be in a place for 6-7 years and more. You'll eventually, hopefully, get an opportunity to refi that loan. But there are cases where renting is just better.
You gave such good advice. Like, I'm in this predicament now, and I feel like, to your point, I see a lot of my friends who have been homeowners, and I see them like really leveling up, because every time they like switch a house and they'll make like 200 grand and they just keep playing with that money and kind of growing it and growing it. So I do see a lot of my friends who have dabbled in home ownership do really well. That's inspiring to me. It's just that in New York, It gets
Oh, it's
crazy.
so hard.
It's so crazy. So I feel like people who are in different cities also have a different experience. It's way easier to buy a house if like you live in the suburbs, you know?
But you have more choice now
Yeah.
than you used to have. I mean, I know young couples who are thinking they live in New York where the price of home ownership is unsustainable. They're looking at Philadelphia. They're looking at Charlotte. They're looking at other places where, because they can work remotely, they could keep their jobs, they could make some friends, and they could be homeowners and have a standard of living that just is a little bit easier.
Young and profiters, there is no better time to start a business. There's no better time to be an entrepreneur. You just need a good idea, and then you need to open up shop. And if you want to open up shop, the number one solution is Shopify. Shopify is the all-in-one global commerce platform that allows you to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify will scale with you the whole way. They're responsible for huge multi-million, billion-dollar brands like Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklyn, and Thrive Cosmetics. These all started as Shopify startups and then expanded into retail, expanded and scaled. I interviewed a lot of these entrepreneurs and heard it from them firsthand. Shopify is an amazing platform to start your business, whether you're selling candles or courses like I do. I do all my course sales, my mastermind subscription. I do it on Shopify. We can do promo codes and I integrate my email campaigns, and they've got amazing analytics. Literally anything you need to market and sell your product, you can do it with a couple clicks on Shopify. You don't need to be tech savvy. You can focus on what you're good at, and then let Shopify enable all the tech stuff so you can just get your core skills done. It's no wonder 10% of all e-commerce is run on Shopify. If you want to give Shopify a try, sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/profiting. Again, that's shopify.com/profiting, all lowercase, for a $1 per month trial period. That's shopify.com/profiting. And I want to hear how you guys opened up shop on Shopify. Okay, so something that you talk a lot about, and I was looking around your website and I saw that you were like, what is your money type? And you have this quiz that people can take for their money type on hermoney.com. So talk to us about money types. What is that? Why is it important to know?
It's important to know how you're wired and why you're wired the way you are. The money type is love languages, right? If you ever read the 5 love languages, money type is that, just for money. So we worked with a PhD who developed this in-depth tool that has been tested on men and women to help figure out why you are the way you are with money. I mean, you may know that it is hard for you to spend or easy for you to spend. You may know that you have trouble losing money or more or less trouble taking risk than other people. You may know that you would do anything for the members of your family, even if it meant putting yourself at financial risk. All of these things are tied up in our 5 personality types. And I would bet, just knowing a little bit more about you and about your audience, that if people went to hermoney.com and they took our diagnostic, our questionnaire, our money type quiz, you've got an audience that is full of what we call visionaries. A lot of entrepreneurs are visionaries, and visionaries have to be careful when it comes to their own personal finances, because it is really tempting to throw all of your money against the business and think that that business is going to be your retirement plan. And we know the statistics on businesses that succeed versus fail. And you give up a lot of years trying to get that business off the ground, and very quickly you can get yourself in trouble. The other thing that I like about money type so much is that we're not all just one type. We've got a primary type, and then we have a couple of secondary types that make up our personality. And if you know your money type and your partner's money type, it's helpful in navigating the relationship and the conversations that the two of you have about money. When I was recently on a different podcast, and the hosts had taken the money type questionnaire, and they said, I feel so seen because there's something about this diagnostic. It just gets people. I felt this way the first time I took it, and I'm a producer. That's what that's my primary money type, with a little bit of connoisseur, which means I like to spend in as well. And it's it's really true, and it's really interesting that a test can get you so well.
Yeah, it's so true. And I'm happy that you brought up relationships, because I actually recently ended a relationship. And one of my primary reasons was our views on money were so different. He's richer than I am and was so cheap. And I was just like, I can't do this. I like to live a life of luxury. I like to spend my money. Not that like I'm frivolous, but it's just like, what's the point of choosing such a hard job if you're not
right?
Like, like to me, I'm just like, if no one's spending their money, why are we working so hard? Like, so it just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and it's good that you figured this out before you like got engaged to the guy, or worse, married the guy, right? I mean, in my house, we say this is why we work. And we say it for exactly the reasons that you just described. We work hard, and we work hard so that if we want to get on a plane and fly across the country, we don't have to think about it. This is the payoff of working so hard and producing. And, I acknowledge we are definitely privileged. I'm fortunate to have a career that I love, which makes working hard feel like not working as hard. But this is why we work. If they didn't pay us, we wouldn't work so hard.
Yeah. I love that. This has been such an awesome conversation. Okay, a couple more questions. Let's talk about budgeting. There's so much inflation going on. Everything is just way more expensive. I think there's a lot of keeping up with the Joneses with social media, a lot of comparison, feeling like you need to keep buying, and your clothes. Like, for instance, with me, I feel like I always got to buy so much clothes because I'm always photographed in my outfits, and then suddenly I don't want to wear the same thing again. And so, talk to us about how we can avoid overspending.
Well, first of all, are you not on The RealReal? You should just be turning over your closet this is what I do, because I'm the same. I do a lot of appearances, and I don't want to be wearing the same thing all the time. And I wear it a couple of times, and I send it to The RealReal, and I buy something else on The RealReal, and I run a credit, and it makes me feel like I'm shopping for free, even though it's not quite shopping for free. But and that I'm doing something a little bit better for the environment. And so that's my shopping suggestion. But when it comes to overspending in general, I think that the secret is that most people have absolutely no idea where their money is actually going. So when we teach budgeting, and we have a program called Finance Fix, where we teach budgeting and how to do this in a way that you can actually save something, we put people through this process of figuring out where their money is going. We use technology to do it, so you don't have to do it by hand. And once you see where you've been using your money, then you have the tools and the ammunition to make changes about where you consciously want to use your money. And so it's not, don't buy the coffee, right? Everybody's least favorite example. It's, if the coffee is the thing that lights up your day, then by all means buy the coffee. But if you could care less, and really what you want is a little bit of caffeine to help you get out the door, then make it at home and have a sip and go about your day and spend your money on something that you actually value.
Yeah, I know where all my money is going. It's Sephora and Revolve. All my money is just going straight there. Okay, let's talk about paying down debt. A lot of people have student loans. A lot of people have debts. You've got this avalanche method. Talk to us about the best strategies for paying down debt, in your opinion.
The cheapest, fastest way to pay off debt is to just stack it, highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. Pay off the highest interest rate debts first while making the minimum payments on the rest. Once that high interest rate debt is gone, then you just move on to the next one, and so on and so on and so on. The student loan debts are a little bit of a different beast. Long-term debts, student loans, mortgages, car loans, you basically want to try to pay those off on the schedule that you're given. If you're struggling with your student loan debts and they're federal debts, then you want to make sure you're enrolled in an income repayment program through the Department of Education. We're getting some changes to those programs that are helpful. As long as you're enrolled, you should get notified of the changes and they should come your way. But don't let paying student loan debt faster get in the way of doing important things like grabbing the match from your 401k. Because if you look at the return on your money, the way that we think about, or the way that we should think about return on your money, is equivalent to the interest rate. So if you're paying off a student loan debt at 6%, that's like getting a 6% return on your money. If you're getting 50 cents on the dollar as a match in your 401k, that's a 50% return on your money. And you can't not get that because you want to pay off the debt at 6%. You just pay off the debt at 6% a little bit slower.
Let's talk about improving your credit. So I actually recently messed up my credit because I was putting it was really dumb. I was spending everything on my business credit cards, and I just thought it was good that I wasn't spending on my own credit cards. I thought, and I was shutting down my personal credit cards, and then I realized oops, I wasn't supposed to do that. You need to actually have credit cards, and I always used to, because I have a lot of cash, I would just pay it off to zero balance. And you're actually not supposed to do that.
Oh, no, you are supposed to do that.
You are supposed to do that. Tell me about it, because I feel confused about what should we actually be doing with our personal credit?
You should be using your personal credit cards and you should be paying them off every month. Pay them off to zero. Interest rates are way too high. The average credit card interest rate, I just looked this up yesterday, is 28%. That's insane. It's insane. You don't want to be paying interest on a credit card. So the way to do this is to understand that there are a couple of factors that go into your credit score, and you need to simultaneously manage all of them. Number one, you got to pay your bills on time. If you pay late, especially if you pay late more than once, that's really going to hurt your score. The second, and this is where you got in trouble, is credit utilization. That's the percentage of credit that you have available to you that you're actually using. We want to keep that number below 30% at all times. So if you have a heavy spending month, sometimes when I go on vacation, I have a heavy spending month and I spend more than 30% of my credit limit on a card. If you do that, the thing to do is just pay the bill now. Pay it twice a month rather than once a month to bring the utilization down. The problem that you got into by closing those credit cards is that you shrunk the pool of available credit that you had, and that hurt your score. The other thing that you did, another factor, it's not as big as the first two, but it's something called length of credit or credit history. The longer your credit relationships, the more beneficial it is to your score. When you close those cards, if they were the cards that you had the longest, you hurt that factor too. So that's how you do it.
Yeah. And actually, I did have a credit card that was with me for so long. And then the credit card company ended the card. And I was like, oh man, I'm really screwed.
They ended it because you weren't using it, right?
No, that type of card retired because I had it for so long. And then suddenly I was like, oh my God, I have no credit cards and I didn't even realize. I'm fixing it though. It will give. It's not that terrible, but I'm fixing it. Cool. So let's talk about stocks, or let's talk about investing in general. I'm just going to give you a general question. I actually asked Susie Orman this question when she came on the show. If you had $100,000 to invest, you already had your emergency fund, you already had savings, all that. You just had $100,000 cash. Where would you put it?
I mean, what I'm doing with that kind of money right now is splitting it up and buying the stocks that we've been picking for our investing club, right? I have a diversified portfolio that is set up to get me to the retirement that I want to get to. I am on track. I have met my savings goals. So if this is quite literally free money, I'm going to put it into the picks that we're picking for our investing club. And so recently we've been looking at stocks like Lululemon, we've got JP Morgan Chase, we've got a bunch of stocks in the portfolio, but we add one about every month, and sometimes we sell one, and I would do that.
That's so cool. So this investment club is basically you guys like all talk about stocks and basically give guidance to each other. How does one join your? It sounds really cool. How does one join your investment club?
So you can go to hermoney.com. It's called Investing Fix. There is, if anybody wants to try it out, you can do it free for a month. But the way it works is that every month we present 4 different investing options. We do it, we look at them on 4 different dimensions. How do they make their money? What do we like about them? What don't we like about them? And would we buy them at the current price? And then the club votes on what we add to the portfolio and what we take away from the portfolio. And so it's a democracy rules. And it's been a lot of fun. Some of the women in our club have stepped up and presented stocks that they're interested in, and some of those have been purchased for the club. One of our members suggested United Rentals, and we bought that. It's been a huge win. So we're all learning from each other, which is just so amazing.
That's so cool. So it's actually like a pool. You guys are pooling your money together and investing together?
We're not. We run a group portfolio that the club itself runs and is invested by the votes that the club decides. But a lot of members like me are buying the picks for our own portfolios.
I love it. Well, Jean, this was such an awesome conversation. I end my show with 2 questions that I ask all my guests. Then at the end of the year, we typically do something fun with it. So the first one is, what is one actionable thing our young and profiters can do today to become more profitable tomorrow?
Start tracking your spending.
Figuring out where that money is going for real.
Yeah, if you don't know where it's going, then you have no control over what it's doing for you, whether it's a business expense or a personal expense. And I know it's tedious and I know it's boring, but sometimes boring is better.
And what is your secret to profiting in life? And this can go beyond financial advice.
My secret to profiting, and I got to tell you, I lost my mom recently, and my lifelong friends came out of the woodwork and have not let me, haven't left me alone in a good way, in the best way. And my secret is to invest as much energy as absolutely possible in those friends.
That's so beautiful. It's so true. Sometimes you forget about relationships, and nothing in the world is more important, I think, than relationships.
100%.
And Jean, where can everybody learn more about you and Her Money?
So I'm on social pretty much everywhere at Jean Chatzky, and you can find us at hermoney.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Young and Profiting Podcast.
Thanks for having me.